What is up, boys and girls? GoodMicWork back at you. Damn, we got a ton of stuff to talk about here in episode 392. What you can expect to hear in this episode is we'll take a look back and I'll give you opinions on this past week's Monday Night Raw, the November 28th edition. Also, we'll look at SmackDown and we'll review that show, which was the go-home show to TLC that took place on Tuesday, November 29th. And I will talk about the debut of 205 Live on the WWE Network, and we will also predict the TLC pay-per-view coming up this Sunday, December 4th. Before we get started here, I just want to remind everybody who might have missed it in my last commentary, I have announced that my year-end video this year will be a Q&A, just a longer than normal question and answer video. So, if you would like to participate in this, you must send your questions to goodmicwork@gmail.com. Just tell me your name and where you're from. Also, audio and video questions are very much welcomed. If you just want to send me an MP3 of you physically asking me a question or send me a video of the same thing, they're more than welcome, and I'll try my best to include them in the video. Also, my 400th commentary is on the horizon, should be coming right around the beginning of the year. So I have come up with just a nice little fun idea to do for that. Nothing special, nothing crazy, just a different than normal video for you guys to commemorate my 400th commentary, and it will be wrestling related. It won't just be me rambling about bullshit. It actually will have a topic to it, and it should be fun. So keep a lookout for that around 7 episodes from now. Let's jump into what we're going to talk about tonight. Now, I'm not going to go through everything that took place on Raw and SmackDown. Just going to give you an idea of what I thought of the shows. We'll start with Raw first. And man, I enjoyed this week's Monday Night Raw, especially the main event. That was good stuff. I don't know what it is with Sasha. She has won 3, count 'em, women's titles now on Monday Night Raw. And what her and Charlotte did on Raw, I think, might have been some of their best work that they've done to date in this very long feud. I'm surprised with how much hate this feud is getting. A lot of people are like, enough is enough, how long is this going to draw on? Which I do understand. When you have a Hell in the Cell match, it's kind of fucked up that a feud goes beyond that. So from that line of thinking, that logic, yes, this feud I think is going on too long, but these are two arguably the best workers in the company right now. They're working together. They're developing such a legacy and such a rivalry, much like a Trish and Lita or something like that, that I can see these girls being each other's Hall of Fame inductors in 20 years when they retire. So for me, I'm not going to complain too much about the belt being hot potatoed back and forth. It's going between a couple of really good workers, plus they're helping develop their legacy. I mean, don't forget, the women's title technically is only about a year and a half old. They're just trying to develop a legacy, not only for Charlotte and Sasha, but also for the WWE Women's title belt. So Sasha now is a 3-time champ. Charlotte is what, a 2 or 3-time champ herself? I don't think it's diminished or demeaned the belt, because most of the work that these two girls have been doing with each other has been a lot of fun and it's been good. And Monday Night Raw was no exception. Now, they announced this title match the week before, and I wasn't feeling a title change, although I did mention in my last commentary that I would not rule it out, because if history is any indication, Sasha has already won 2 women's titles on Raw, so who's to say she can't do it again? It seems like Sasha owns Raw and Charlotte owns pay-per-views. But despite all of that, I still wasn't really feeling a title change. And then they did the match twice, basically. You know, they came out, I think, at the beginning of the second hour for their match, and it wound up in a double DQ. Or maybe it was a double countout. I actually don't remember. But Mick Foley came out and said, nope, the match is not going to end like this. It's not going to be a wash or a draw. We're actually going to have a winner here. So I want the girls to go backstage, take a little bit of a rest, and then later on tonight, we're going to have Charlotte versus Sasha in a no-holds-barred, falls count anywhere match for the WWE Women's title. So first, these girls are working Hell in the Cell. Now they're working Falls Count Anywhere. So it's getting nuts now. To fast forward to the main event, this was the main event, and it wasn't even that talked about. You know, what I like about Raw now in the women's division is that it's not uncommon for the girls just to main event. They're not even going to make a big deal of it. It's going to be a regular thing from now on, and I like that. If you're having a WWE Women's title match, it should fucking be in the main event. And this match was a lot of fun, too. Much like the Hell in the Cell match, maybe it wasn't quite as fun as what the men would do, but it came damn close, and they had some really good spots. Some of my favorite moments in this match was when Sasha went absolutely ballistic with the kendo stick on Charlotte and was just whipping her. I think one time she even hit her in the face by accident. That looked really vicious and really awesome. And of course, Charlotte drugged Sasha all the way up to the announce desk up on the stage and did a moonsault off of the announce table down to the concrete floor, which was really crazy to see. And I was actually scared watching that. My heart skipped a beat when Charlotte took that flip because it's live and I really didn't want her to get hurt. But my favorite moment of all was probably the finish. That submission submission was awesome. What did she do? Like put her in the bank statement on the guardrail that separates the steps going up into the crowd? I don't think I've ever seen anybody do a move on that before, so that's definitely a first. And the way she had her pinned back, Charlotte's back is basically completely bent over backwards, and she fucking taps out in the middle of the audience in her hometown of Charlotte. I was pretty shocked by that, and I don't mind being shocked. I like that sort of thing. I was happy with what we saw at Survivor Series with Goldberg and Brock Lesnar, and I didn't expect Sasha to win the belt, but I'm sure as hell not going to complain that she did, because she's a hell of a little worker. Her and Charlotte are great. So between the two of them, I really don't care who holds the belt. And if they want to pass it back and forth between, I think it's making for some pretty fun TV. So I personally do not really have a problem with what they did on Raw. I was perfectly fine seeing Sasha win the belt again. And I guess this feud is not over. Charlotte, of course, now is going to want a rematch. That might happen at the Royal Rumble, and then Charlotte's going to win it back again because she's a boss on pay-per-views. So yeah, I guess it's going to extend the feud, which might not please too many people, but whatever. What are you going to do? The match was filled with speculation, too, because once Mick made it a no-holds-barred match, I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, somebody's got to interfere. Ric Flair, has got to be in the building, and I figured he would come out. Charlotte, treated him like a piece of shit last time they were on TV together, so he could come out and maybe help Sasha win the belt. That was one thought that went through my mind. Plus, we've been seeing all the vignettes forever for Emelina and this transformation that she's gone through. Her build has been longer than Glacier's fucking build. I mentioned on Twitter that she's been gone so long she might come back as a dude. So I was thinking maybe she could interfere in the match. Her and Summer Rae both said something derogatory about Charlotte and Sasha's feud, so I thought maybe the two of them could come back together and interfere in the match or something like that, but we didn't get that. We got no interference. Nobody got any help. The girls fought and won and lost this thing on their own, and the finish with a submission I thought was great. And Ric Flair coming out at the end of the night. Sasha is back in the ring with the belt. Ric Flair's music hits, and he comes out and hugs and congratulates Sasha, which was insane. So overall, I think it was pretty fun, and congratulations to Sasha. She's now a 3-time WWE Women's Champion, and we'll have to see where they go from here. I'm hoping one more match and this thing is over. Waiting until the Royal Rumble seems like it's a long way away, so maybe these girls can wrap up their business on Monday Night Raw. And if they want to have Sasha be the one to hold the belt going into WrestleMania, because Charlotte held the belt going into WrestleMania last year, maybe they can have some sort of a final match on Raw. And we know how well Sasha performs on Monday Night Raw. She's won 3 women's titles on that show. Maybe Mick Foley makes something to where they say one more match, this is it, and then Sasha can move on to another opponent at the Royal Rumble or WrestleMania. They seem to be building up Nia Jax, so maybe they put the belt on her at the Royal Rumble or something if she takes on Sasha in a match. And then maybe Nia Jax goes into WrestleMania to drop it to Bayley or something like that. I don't know. But really right now, it's hard to complain about the women's division. I understand there's little things that are annoying about it with the Sasha and Charlotte feud and everything like that, but for me, think about where we were 10 years ago. It would be fucking Tori Wilson and Stacy Keibler. Fuck that. This is much better regardless of, how many times they're flopping the title back and forth. The other big angle on Raw was the setup of the Roadblock pay-per-view, which I think is coming up on December 18th. No matches have been added to that yet, so they had to kind of, cement their main event. It will be Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens, which I mentioned in my last commentary that I did read that was leaked a little bit, so it's not really a surprise. They led to it on Raw with Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens opening up, cutting a promo. At first, they were thankful for each other, and showing everyone what BFFs they were. And then Roman Reigns comes out, and he basically calls Kevin Owens out for not being able to do anything on his own. He hasn't been able to win any matches without Chris Jericho's help, and that he's a pussy and that he can't win anything man-to-man, and winds up challenging Kevin Owens to a match on Raw, one-on-one without Chris Jericho, and if Roman Reigns beats him, then he gets a title shot at Roadblock. Now, I have a couple of problems with this. Number one, I just want to say I don't have any problem with the match. Roman Reigns getting a title shot seems logical. If you think about it, Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, Jericho, and Roman Reigns, they've all been entangled and embroiled in this thing together. Right now, Roman Reigns makes the most logical opponent choice for Kevin Owens, at least at this particular pay-per-view. This kind of reminds me a little bit of when John Cena got the WWE title shot against Seth Rollins at SummerSlam when he was the United States champion. So the fact that Roman is getting a title shot, that that doesn't really bother me per se, but it's how they went about it. I cannot stand it. They do this shit all the time. Does WWE have any other ideas in their head at all of how to get a guy a title shot other than just having a match with the champion, and if the challenger wins, then he earns a title shot at the next pay-per-view or whatever the fuck? They do this way too fucking often. So even though I don't mind the Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns match at Roadblock, I hate the fact that they had the match on Monday Night Raw and Roman Reigns beat him clean. That is horseshit. What the fuck is wrong with just having a contender earn a title shot by defeating other top contenders? What happened to that plan? They used to always do that. They used to throw like the top 3 or 4 competitors in a fucking 3-way or a 4-way, and then the winner of that gets a title shot. At least do that. WWE seems hell-bent on pinning their champions left and right, and these days, more often than not, when somebody earns a title match, they earn that match by defeating the champion, and it's stupid. They have to come up with some better ideas to get guys title shots. It's just dumb. And you're going to be putting this match on a pay-per-view, but you just gave it away on Raw 2 weeks before, or 3 weeks before, or whatever. It just happens way too often, and I am fucking sick of it. So Roman Reigns, of course, in the main event, defeats Kevin Owens completely clean with a spear and pins him 1, 2, 3 to earn the title shot at Roadblock. Now, I do not expect Roman Reigns to win the belt. I think it would be silly to put the WWE title on him right now when he's in the middle of this US title run. What I think they're doing here is just building an impressive list of successful title defenses for Kevin Owens. You know, when he finally does go into WrestleMania as champion or drops the belt or whatever, he's going to have a lot of impressive names on his hit list of guys that he's defeated. Whether he's gotten help in those matches or not, having multiple wins against Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns looks good for you as champion. So for Kevin Owens to go into Roadblock, he should be able to escape this match. Hopefully, he will do it clean. I think there's a really good chance that he'll do it clean. But there's also a really good chance that Jericho could get involved again. I would prefer if Owens won clean, since Roman beat Owens clean on Raw. But I'm also thinking that they might be building to a 4-way at the Royal Rumble. Between Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens started, having some dissension because Kevin Owens started listening to what Roman Reigns said on Raw and said, yeah, I can beat you without Chris Jericho, and actually told Jericho that he doesn't want his help. Jericho even left in a huff and then wound up getting attacked and pedigreed on top of a car in the parking lot by Seth Rollins. So all 4 of these guys are involved in all of this shit. Something's going to go down with Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens at Roadblock. Kevin Owens should retain and continue his title run, and then you got to think that that's got to set something up at the Royal Rumble. Initially, I was thinking 3-way, Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, but now I'm thinking 4-way, and you add Jericho into this thing, and who knows, maybe they put the belt on Jericho for 1 month between January and February and have him drop it again to Kevin Owens or something before WrestleMania even arrives. Jericho is so over right now, and everything he's doing with Kevin Owens is fucking TV gold. You got to wonder if they might reward Jericho's overness with a short little cup of coffee title run or something like that. I certainly would not be opposed to it, but considering everything we've been seeing between these 4 guys, I think a 4-way for the belt at the Royal Rumble right now seems likely. So this match with Roman Reigns at Roadblock will just continue the build to that. So I don't expect Roman Reigns to win the belt. I will pretty much put a 100% guarantee on that he won't. As crazy as that sounds, there's no 100% guarantees in wrestling, but if Roman Reigns were to beat Kevin Owens at Roadblock and win the WWE title, I think that would be the most mind-boggling, head-scratching decision in the goddamn history of the WWE. Right now, it just wouldn't make any sense for Roman Reigns to be WWE champion. He's already got a belt. Let him continue with that. He will be back in main event status in no time. I'm pretty sure he's, for the most part, over that punishment of his drug suspension last summer. So by the time we get to WrestleMania or even next summer, I'm sure Roman will be right back in the mix of the world title. But right now, he has no place there. So I think the match with Kevin Owens is just a tool to set up more between these 4 guys, Rollins, Reigns, Owens, and Jericho. And plus, I think a 4-way at the Rumble might be a fun little, I don't want to say undercard match, but you got to think about what's going on at the Royal Rumble. Right now, you got Brock Lesnar and Goldberg competing in the Royal Rumble match, and AJ Styles is probably either going to be wrestling John Cena or even potentially The Undertaker for the WWE title on the SmackDown brand. To me, that's the 2 main things of the show. So you can't have another big epic match for the Universal title. There's just not room on this card for anything more awesome. So if you put these 4 guys in, I think they can give you kind of like the match of the night. I think a 4-way between these 4 could be a lot of fun. They could do a lot of things. They could get really creative. I think they could do a lot. So that's kind of what I'm hoping they actually do at the Royal Rumble for the Universal title. Moving on to what else we saw on Monday Night Raw, there was another title match on that show. Charlotte wasn't the only one defending her belt. The New Day, who is now, I think, like 2 weeks away or so, maybe 17 days, something like that, from breaking Demolition's record. They had to defend the belts on Raw against Gallows and Anderson, and they escaped with another one. One of them got rolled up. I think it was Carl Anderson got rolled up. There was a hook of the tights. And we've got just over 2 weeks left. It looks like New Day will, in fact, beat Demolition's record. I don't even know why they bothered having a title match on Raw. And I think the fans are actually kind of tired of seeing New Day as champs. So it looks like we're getting down to the end of it now. At this point, it looks like they're definitely going to break Demolition's record. The question now is, will they go into 2017 as champion, or will the WWE take the belts off of them the moment they break that record? So we'll have to wait and see there. The other big news on Raw, I mentioned a minute ago that Brock Lesnar is going to be in the Royal Rumble. The reason we know that is because Paul Heyman did a sit-down interview with Michael Cole, and it's his first appearance or, first statement since Brock's annihilation at the Survivor Series. And it was great. I loved that segment. I almost preferred them doing this than to having Paul Heyman come out and cut a promo in the ring, because Paul Heyman, he was quiet, he was subdued, extremely emotional, actually teared up and cried on camera. He kind of had like a 5 o'clock shadow, looked like he hadn't shaved in a while. He just looked a mess. He looked like death. And basically says that him and Brock fucked up and they took Goldberg too lightly, which is what I was saying the whole time when I was defending the match decision to have it be a minute and a half. This shit happens in UFC all the time and nobody complains. For them to do it in WWE for the shock value alone, I think was worth it. Plus, Paul Heyman said it himself that Brock Lesnar took Goldberg lightly. He didn't take him seriously. He got caught off guard when he got hit with a spear and injured his ribs and he couldn't breathe. And it was, it can be argued that it was technically a fluke, even though Brock did get annihilated pretty bad. And Paul Heyman admitted that they both screwed up and Brock Lesnar is extremely embarrassed about the loss. So the whole presentation and the whole interview, I think, was really good. And then Paul Heyman says, if you think Brock's going to sit on this and just fizzle away and disappear, you're wrong, because Brock Lesnar has something to prove now. And if Goldberg is going to be in the Royal Rumble, then so is Brock Lesnar. So there it is. It's official. Both of these guys are going to be in the Royal Rumble match, which I think is good and bad. It's good because I'm dying to see Brock Lesnar's demeanor. I'm dying to see how cocky or how mad or how badass he is when he does show up in the Royal Rumble. Is he just going to tear through everybody and eliminate 20 guys until he gets his hands on Goldberg? What is the confrontation between the two of them going to be like? Is one of them going to eliminate the other one? Are they going to eliminate each other? How is it going to lead to a match between the two of them at WrestleMania? If it is, you got to think that that's probably what they're building towards here. I'm really not interested in seeing either one of these two guys win it. I don't want to see Goldberg win the WWE title again. I don't think it's necessary. And Brock Lesnar winning the Royal Rumble, I'd be fine with, but then where does that leave his feud with Goldberg if Brock Lesnar is going to be getting a title shot at WrestleMania? So what I'm hoping happens here is that these two guys just annihilate each other or just brawl out into the crowd or something like that, and neither one of them wins it. What I don't want to see happen is the WWE focus this entire Royal Rumble around these two guys and they don't think about anything else. And the other 28 participants that come into that ring are merely just fillers, and they're just there to do their thing and get tossed out. And WWE really doesn't care about anything about the structure of the match other than Goldberg and Brock Lesnar. So I'm wondering if these two guys are going to draw maybe number 1 and 2, and you could kind of have that rematch. They'll be in the ring by themselves. And hell, 2 minutes is a lot longer than their first match, so they actually have time to have another match here, technically. So what if Brock Lesnar, he catches Goldberg quickly with a quick F5 off guard and tosses him out of the ring in 30 seconds before the third participant even comes down there? But my money right now is on these two guys just kind of eliminating each other, just brawling viciously. Like I said, maybe over the top rope and then into the crowd or something like that. So it should be interesting to see how they build to the confrontation between these two guys in the Royal Rumble, and I'm excited for it. Like I said, this match at Survivor Series has opened the door for so much more now between these two. If it would have been a 15-minute match that Brock Lesnar won, yeah, he would have been 1-1 and tied with Goldberg, but it might not have been a match that we were really excited to see again, because, how good can a 15-minute match between these two guys be? The way they did it, hit us in the face with the shock value and the 2 spears and the jackhammer and the pin, I thought was brilliant, and it really has set them up for a lot of big money matches moving forward, especially especially with WrestleMania on the horizon. So the interview with Paul Heyman was great. I loved the way that he was humbled by the whole situation, which is nice and a definite change of pace. And we'll have to see if Brock Lesnar or Goldberg make any appearances on Raw before the Royal Rumble. Just to blow through a couple of other things that took place on Raw real quick, we had another confrontation between Braun Strowman and Sami Zayn. Strowman beat R-Truth in a match, and then he even beat up Goldust after the match. Sami Zayn then runs out there and attacks Braun Strowman, which I was a little bit surprised about. I think Sami should have been selling that injury one more week, and then maybe came back next week and attacked Braun Strowman, because he got the crap beaten out of him last week on Raw. So the fact that he's out there wanting another taste of that and wanting another shot at Strowman, to me, is crazy. And Strowman, of course, gets the upper hand on him and starts beating the hell out of him. And then Mick Foley comes out and stops the brawl, much like he stopped the match last week on Raw. And then kind of Sami Zayn recovers and then cuts a promo on Mick Foley that he's not happy with Mick sticking his nose in his business and trying to save him and all this shit. So Zayn is just not happy with Mick Foley. They're not getting along. Mick Foley is trying to make it like he respects Sami Zayn, but he's done a couple of dastardly things to Zayn. Like I said last week, he's Dick Foley when it comes to Sami Zayn. So I'm hoping that this might eventually lead to a trade. I think SmackDown needs a couple of guys. I think Raw's roster is very deep, and they could easily afford to send maybe like Sami Zayn and Cesaro over to SmackDown. Think about if they did that. I think Sami Zayn and Cesaro could have a ton of success on SmackDown. When you think about the roster and who is there and who the title contenders are and how some guys like Heath Slater are getting a push that they would normally otherwise not get, I think that Cesaro could thrive on SmackDown, and so could Sami Zayn. On Raw, they both seemed lost in the shuffle. So whatever's going on with Sami Zayn, I hope it eventually leads to him jumping over to SmackDown at some point. We had another match between Rusev and Enzo. Seems like they can't really decide what they want to do with Rusev right now, so they're doing this shit with Enzo and Cass. That match ended in a DQ when Rusev just kicked Enzo right in the nuts. Rich Swann won a tune-up match on Raw for his title shot on 205 Live. They did a bar fight with Cesaro and Sheamus, much like very reminiscent of the APA in those days. And another cruiserweight match as well. Tony Nese beat Cedric Alexander in his hometown of Charlotte. So WWE really likes having people lose in their hometown. I don't know why they get off on that so much. But anyway, that's pretty much wraps it up for Raw. Now, I'm going to kind of jump around here. Hopefully, I'm going to do my best not to rant here, because I'll tell you what, man, this 205 Live shit is infuriating me to no end. I don't know why it's bothering me so much, but it lacks about as much logic as I've ever seen. So 205 Live aired after SmackDown. It's also taped after SmackDown. I think it airs live, right? It's 205 Live. So I think after SmackDown is off the air, they go right into the taping of 205 Live, which I'm a little bit worried about the crowd being into some of these matches, because one of the big problems on Raw is that the crowd just doesn't seem to give a shit. Unless I'm wrong. Unless they're taping this before SmackDown, which I guess is possible, but then why is it called 205 Live? So I'm under the assumption that they're taping this right after SmackDown. The crowd could be burnt out and dead anyway. Luckily, that was not the case with 205 Live, however, because we did see a great main event and a great cruiserweight title match. However, the show makes no sense. I don't understand why a Raw brand show is being taped in front of a SmackDown audience with a SmackDown set, with a SmackDown fucking announcer, and get this, look at that picture on the screen. They opened up 205 Live with a SmackDown fucking announce table. Now, as the show went on, they would cover it up with the 205 Live logo. But why is this Raw brand coming on Tuesdays right after the fans are done watching SmackDown and right before Talking Smack? So that's right. You get Raw on Monday, then you get SmackDown on Tuesday, then you get 205 Live right after SmackDown, which is a Raw show, but then you have to revert back to SmackDown if you want to watch the Talking Smack episode, which airs after 205 Live. So to me, I am confused as fuck. I don't understand why they just didn't have Kalisto win that fucking match at Survivor Series. It makes absolutely no sense. If WWE wants to develop these separate brands that feel differently, you are not accomplishing that with this cruiserweight show. I think Monday should be Raw Day and Tuesday should be SmackDown Day, and each day should have a feel to it. Monday Night Raw is 3 hours, so keep that show the way it is on Raw. And then maybe you can even air a post-show, a Raw talk, or whatever the hell they do on the WWE Network after that. Then on Tuesday, it should be SmackDown for 2 hours. Then you tune over to the WWE Network for an extra hour of SmackDown content with the Cruiserweights. And then after that, you can air Talking Smack. Monday has a feel to it. Tuesday has a feel to it. Monday's for Raw. Tuesday's for SmackDown. How fucking goddamn hard is this to understand? WWE. The only thing I'm thinking is that WWE has 3 hours to fill on Monday Night Raw, and they need as much filler and as many roster members as possible. But I think Raw can still survive without the Cruiserweight division. I think they have enough talent there, and they have enough shit that they can do to fill 3 hours. I think that they are being extremely foolish with the placement of this 205 Live, and to me, I'm not feeling much of a brand split. If the point is to create competition and create separate identities for these brands, possibly even developing separate fans. Maybe WWE can even get to the point where people who like Raw, and people who like SmackDown. And SmackDown is an hour less and an hour shorter every week. So, you can have 3 hours of Raw, you can have 3 hours of SmackDown, and it's even. What the fuck is their problem here? So it makes no sense, and I'm highly irritated about it, and I don't have a lot of high hopes for the Cruiserweight division anymore, I gotta be honest with you. The 205 Live wasn't that bad of a show, but I thought maybe 205 Live should be an environment like NXT. Better yet, if you want 205 Live to be a Raw show, that's when it should air. NXT is only 1 hour long. To me, it would make more sense to tape 205 Live at an NXT taping in front of that audience at Full Sail and just change all the graphics to 205 Live. That would make a lot more sense to me than taping it after SmackDown. It just makes no sense. I'm fucking pissed. But anyway, as far as the debut of 205 Live, they brought out the entire roster to open the show and they introduced everybody. They had time to give us a couple of matches. Incidentally, not only is Mauro Ranallo, the SmackDown announcer, announcing this thing with Raw announcer Corey Graves, but they've thrown Austin Aries in there too. Now, I don't know if Austin Aries has done commentary previously in his career, so I'm not going to judge him yet, but I didn't really feel like he offered a lot, and most of the time I didn't even notice he was there. So it's probably very nerve-wracking for him. I mean, this is a guy that's been working independents and TNA his whole life, and now he's coming into WWE. He's only been there for a short time, and now he's got a headset on, and he's at the announce booth with Vince McMahon in his ear. I'd be shitting my pants too. So hopefully Austin Aries will get a little bit better, but initially I didn't really think he brought a whole lot to the table there, announcing-wise. But the matches we got, Tony Nese and Drew Gulak lost to these Bollywood boys. I don't know much about them. They cut a really shitty promo after the match in the aisleway, complaining about why they lost. I wasn't too enamored with that. I love Jack Gallagher, and he defeated Daivari. I didn't know that he was trained by Billy Robinson. That's awesome. Billy Robinson was one of my favorite wrestlers ever, and he wrestled that awesome catch style. The main event, of course, was Brian Kendrick defending the Cruiserweight title against Rich Swann, who earned that number one contender opportunity, I think, last week on Monday Night Raw. I had a feeling we would see a title change here because the Cruiserweight title, I think, will change hands a lot more often than other belts, and plus, it's a brand new show. You want to start it off on the right foot, so having a title change didn't surprise me at all. Rich Swann is very over. I think WWE likes him. The crowd likes him. He's very, very entertaining. So he did come away with the belt and a victory here in a really, really, really good match. I actually highly enjoyed that match between Brian Kendrick and Rich Swann. The crowd was into it as well, and I think it was a pretty decent start for 205 Live. I don't know if they're going to be able to continue this pace, and congrats to Rich Swann. I like him a lot. Happy that he's the Cruiserweight champ, and I guess he'll be getting a rematch with Kendrick. Will be the next order of business for those two guys. I'll briefly mention SmackDown here. This was the go-home show to TLC, and the show opened with a segment that I thought was going to suck. And when I saw that it was going to be Becky Lynch and Alexa Bliss signing their contract with Renee Young, I'm like, oh God, I don't know how good this is going to be. Even though I like Alexa Bliss so far, I hate her fucking name, but so far she's kind of impressed me. I still didn't think the segment was going to be much, but it was. Alexa, I love her little attitude. She's kind of like, she reminds me a little bit of AJ Lee. I mentioned on Twitter that there's just a tiny hint of Molly Holly in her. There's a little bit of AJ Lee in her, and I like her spunky attitude. She's pretty decent on the mic, throws some pretty decent burns. Normally I don't like it when girls talk shit to each other because it looks so fake, but Alexa Bliss is pretty funny. She eventually pissed off Becky enough where she just nails her right with a punch in the face, and the girls start brawling, and Alexa gets the upper hand, winds up putting Becky Lynch through a table, through the contract table, to close out the segment, and she walks away. So that actually led to the match being changed to a tables match now. So there you go. Becky Lynch versus Alexa Bliss, and a tables match is now set for TLC. We also had Dolph Ziggler and Kalisto taking on The Miz and Baron Corbin in a tag team match. This was just more to further the storyline between all four of these guys. The match didn't go very long and wound up ending in a disqualification when Baron Corbin used a chair on Kalisto, and of course they will be facing each other in a chairs match at TLC. Carmella cut a promo on Nikki Bella before a match that she was scheduled to be in, talking a bunch of shit, and Nikki ended up running out there and the girls started brawling. The match never happened, and of course they're going to be involved in a no DQ match at TLC as well. Now, we then had an Ambrose Asylum. Ambrose Asylum is back. I was hoping we would see Mitch or Mitch's brother or Mitch's cousin, but we didn't. The Ambrose Asylum is back, and Dean Ambrose brought out James Ellsworth. Typical stuff between the two of these guys, you know, Dean Ambrose loving James Ellsworth, but also insulting him kind of at the same time, the way he's been doing. AJ Styles then interrupts him and starts cutting a promo, like standing on the announce table, and eventually gets in the ring and gets in their faces. This then leads to a brawl. AJ takes out both of them, takes out Ambrose, and then gets his hands on James Ellsworth, beats the hell out of him. And in a spot that damn near gave me a heart attack, he stands on the ring steps on the outside of the ring and puts Ellsworth in Styles Clash position and nails him with it on the floor on the outside of the ring. I'm sure that's a move he might have done in TNA or in Japan somewhere. I've never seen him do it, and it damn near freaked me out. So fucking dangerous. Jesus, so dangerous. And Ellsworth just got demolished, and he had to be, you know, basically stretchered out. And you gotta wonder what's gonna happen between these guys at TLC. I'm starting to think that Ellsworth, the whole thing seems like it's run its course almost. I like Ellsworth, don't get me wrong, but it's funny that they even signed him to a contract, because it's like you can almost see the downward spiral starting to happen. Remember that kid Colin Delaney? It looked like they were giving him a push. Next thing you know, he's getting annihilated week after week after week, and he was eventually off of TV. So I don't know what kind of contract James Ellsworth has, but it seems like this whole thing almost has, I don't know what's the word, like shelf life to it. It seems like it can only go so far. So what I'm wondering is at TLC, because AJ Styles in the promo on SmackDown told Ellsworth to show up, he dared him to show up to TLC. So you got to think that Ellsworth is going to do something here to cost Dean Ambrose the match, because much like Kevin Owens with Roman Reigns, I don't see AJ Styles dropping that belt at TLC. You got to have some interference by James Ellsworth. Maybe he fucks up and costs Dean Ambrose the match, causing Dean to snap and turn heel and beat the hell out of James Ellsworth. I think a Dean Ambrose heel turn could be pretty successful on SmackDown, or possibly, maybe even Ellsworth could be the one to turn heel. Maybe he costs Dean Ambrose the match. I can't see that happening the way he's been taking ass kickings from AJ Styles and took a Styles Clash off the steps onto the floor. For him to come out there and help him now at TLC would seem strange and wouldn't make much sense. But I have a feeling that something has got to happen and somebody's got to go heel. I don't know how long they can continue on the same road with James Ellsworth before they change things up. And I think a Dean Ambrose heel turn right now makes the most sense. So whatever they wind up doing at TLC, I'll talk about my predictions in a minute. I do not see AJ dropping that belt. Now, the main event of the night was that tag team match that we talked about last week that was made. American Alpha won that tag team turmoil, only to find out that they were not quite done and they had to face Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt on SmackDown this week. That was the main event. The winner of this match would go on to TLC to face Rhino and Heath Slater for the tag team titles, and I was rooting hard for Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton. I really want to see these two guys win the tag belts. I like this role for Randy Orton. I didn't think I would like it. I initially thought it was stupid, but it's growing on me, and I actually like Orton in this role a lot. It's just something different for him. And I was really interested to see how he would work with these young kids in American Alpha, because they're amazing athletes, and the match was pretty damn good too. And I was happy to see that Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton did wind up winning. They had a little bit of help from Luke Harper, who was kind of on Bray's shit list, because Orton and Bray told Luke Harper earlier on in the night during a promo that he has to face Kane and he better go out and do what's needed to be done, and he didn't. He lost to Kane in a long match, got chokeslammed and pinned by the Big Red Machine, so Harper came out to kind of redeem himself a little bit, provided just enough of a distraction for Bray Wyatt to nail the Sister Abigail and get the pin, and Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt get the title shot at TLC, and I'm rooting hard for him. You know, I mean, everybody says that Bray Wyatt is the type of character that doesn't need a belt. I agree with that, but you got to give him at least something. He hasn't won any belts yet. This is the perfect opportunity. If him and Randy Orton cannot beat this weirdo team of Rhino and Heath Slater, then to me that would kill all the momentum the Wyatt family has had. So they better wind up winning that fucking thing. Why don't we move right on now into those TLC predictions? I have 6 matches written down. I'm sure we're going to get something on the kickoff show, and maybe something can be added last minute, but probably not. This is probably going to be the 6 that we have. We'll start at the bottom of the card. We'll start with Nikki Bella versus Carmella. No DQ match. I don't even know what to say about this. All I'm going to say is Nikki will win, I am predicting. Kalisto versus Baron Corbin in a chairs match. You got to pick Baron Corbin. I mean, they're pushing him hard. I like Baron Corbin. I like his presentation. I like his entrance. He's a big, bad, ass-kicking machine. For him to lose to a little cruiserweight like this wouldn't make any sense, even though Corbin has been owning Kalisto and bullying him and fucking him up left and right. You would think that Kalisto would get some revenge here, but to me, that might harm Baron Corbin, so I really don't want to see it. So I think Baron Corbin annihilates Kalisto and gets the win. Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton versus Heath Slater and Rhino for the tag team titles. I just talked about it. I gotta go with Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt here. I really want Bray Wyatt to take home his first championship, and I think it will extend the life of the Wyatt family and Randy Orton storyline, and I like it, and I want it to continue as long as possible. Becky Lynch defending the women's title against Alexa Bliss in what is now a tables match. I'm going with Becky. Alexa Bliss kind of got the upper hand in the brawl, put Becky through a table. I think Becky is going to put Alexa through a table at TLC and retain the title. I still don't think it's time for Becky to lose it quite yet. I think they should have the first ladies champion in SmackDown history hold the belt at least for a little while, and I would like to see her enter 2017 as champion. She doesn't have to go all the way to WrestleMania with it or anything like that. I'm not saying that, but at least for TLC, I'm not ready to see Becky lose the belt yet, and I'm predicting her to defeat Alexa Bliss. Ladder match for the Intercontinental title, Dolph Ziggler versus The Miz. Here's the one upset pick that I have to pick. When you look at the card here, you got to wonder how many title changes we're going to get. I am predicting the tag team titles to change hands. And just for the fuck of it, I'm going to predict the Intercontinental title to change hands too. I'm going to predict Dolph Ziggler beats The Miz in the ladder match for the Intercontinental title. I don't know why, but I just have this feeling that they might be doing something between these two guys very similar to what they're doing with Charlotte and Sasha on Monday Night Raw. Maybe Maurice fucks up or costs The Miz the match or something like that. I don't know what's going to happen, but Dolph Ziggler, you know, he always draws comparisons to Shawn Michaels. You would think he should have at least one major victory in a ladder match, especially for the Intercontinental title. I think if him and The Miz put on a great match and Dolph comes out victorious, it'll be great for the crowd. The crowd should go nuts. It'll give us that fun, happy title change because I picked a good amount of heels so far. So I'm predicting Dolph Ziggler. Dean Ambrose versus AJ Styles for the WWE title in a TLC match. I just talked about it. There's no way Ambrose is taking this belt. I don't want him to. AJ is a badass, awesome champion. Him and Kevin Owens both are doing great things on their respective brands, and I don't have any interest in seeing either one of them drop the belts right now before we get to the end of the year. So somehow AJ Styles, I predict, will defeat Dean Ambrose in the TLC match. Ellsworth, I'm sure, will be involved. Whether he costs Dean Ambrose the match intentionally or unintentionally at this point still remains to be seen, but I got to go with AJ retaining the belt here. So that gives me what? That gives me 3 baby faces, 3 heels. I'm picking Nikki Bella, Baron Corbin, the Wyatt family, Becky Lynch, Dolph Ziggler, and AJ Styles to come away with victories at TLC. So that's a pretty nice balance there, and I feel pretty good about my predictions. So let me know all your thoughts about what's been going on. Let me know if you agree with anything I said about 205 Live and how little sense any of that bullshit makes. What are your predictions for TLC? Who do you think is turning heel? What do you think is going to happen at Roadblock between Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns? Where do you see Charlotte and Sasha going in the future? And how do you see the Royal Rumble match with the confrontation with Brock and Goldberg likely to happen in that? How do you see that going? What are your plans for WrestleMania? All that stuff. Throw as many opinions as you want at me in the comments. The other news that I have written down, I don't really have anything written down other than something I forgot to mention last week. There has been rumblings that Conor McGregor could potentially have a WWE appearance at some point. Apparently his agent has said they would entertain offers from the WWE to come in. I think he's perfect for the WWE because he's such a cocky, arrogant asshole. I actually hate Conor McGregor. I know a lot of people like him. A lot of people love that arrogant swagger, trash talking. They think it's perfect for MMA, and it is in a lot of ways because look at what it's done for him. It's made him famous. I think he's made just as much a name for himself with his attitude as he has with his fists. And with an attitude like that, you know, he's tailor-made for something like professional wrestling. So when you're a guy like that with that over the top of a persona and a character, really, I mean, I'm sure a lot of this is just acting, you know, gets you a ton of press, it gets you a ton of attention, and it opens the doors for more opportunities like professional wrestling, where if you're just a UFC guy that keeps his mouth shut and doesn't say anything, nobody's going to take notice of you. So Conor McGregor, not only is he an ass-kicking machine who set some records in UFC, even holding 2 belts at one time, He also has that trash talking and that charisma to him that would make him a perfect professional wrestler at the same time. So if he came in, I'm sure it would be great. I'm sure he could do something huge or have a big money spot somewhere, possibly even at WrestleMania. Would not be surprised at all if we see Conor McGregor at some form in WrestleMania. I don't know if he's going to have a match. I doubt it, but maybe do something like what Ronda Rousey did a couple of years ago with The Rock or something like that. And you have to wonder if he'd come in as a babyface or a heel because he's such a douchebag. I don't think anybody likes the guy. So that is it for me. I am out of here. I guess I'm just going to throw this out there, even though it's very unlikely. There is like a 10% chance I could actually not watch TLC live. I plan on being up home watching the pay-per-view live tweeting with all of you, so please join me at GoodMicWork on Twitter. But there's just an off chance that I might have to do something at work that night, and it could potentially make me miss the pay-per-view. But if I do, I'll come home, I'll catch the replay, and I will still get a reaction video up. It'll just be much later than normal. But most likely, I'll be up here for my normal schedule, live tweeting during the show and providing a reaction video immediately after. So anyway, just wanted to throw that out there. You guys have a great rest of your week. Enjoy TLC this Sunday, and I will catch you Sunday night after the pay-per-view. Until then, peace.